Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a Pokemon that I had really great results with today in the Remix Cup, and that is Double Legacy Shadow Pidgeot. Now this recommendation actually came from a commenter, Ryan, who recommended Shadow Pidgeot since it did a pretty nice job of breaking the Pangoro plus Ghost Core that is so strong otherwise. So I gave it a try, used my final Elite Charge TM to get Air Cutter, and my goodness, Shadow Gust is scary, but boosted Shadow Gust is absolutely terrifying. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at the team in action. Hopping into the first match, picking up a very neutral lead, Shadow Pidgeot into Guzzlord. For this team, I just wanted two very bulky Pokemon in the back that can operate without shields, because in a lot of situations, I'm probably going to be shielded to Pidgeot. Pidgeot's going to farm up a ton. I'm going to go for a bait here. Air Cutter won't quite knock out from this health range. Guzzlord is pretty bulky. I switch into the Diggersby looking for a snipe, but my opponent hangs on with fractional HP and fires off a brutal swing. In comes Primeape to answer the Diggersby. Primeape is very frail, so I will decide to go for the bait here. Neither move KOs, but my opponent with a stone cold bait call. So I'm just going to fire off Fire Punch number 2. This won't KO them either, but it would basically remove them from the field of play, so they are forced to commit a shield, and now after they've overfarmed quite a bit, close combat is going to come through. They're at -2 defense, which means Pidgeot, 1 Gust is going to knock them out here. They go for the close combat to force the shield, and I know they're very low health on the Guzzlord. In comes Claydol. They pause and try for the catch, but I show patience, and now I don't even think they're going to get to see my third. I have so much energy with the Pidgeot. They shield the Air Cutter bait. We're going for the Brave Bird, and it's good night for the Claydol. Brave Bird picks up the 1-hit KO, and that's going to be a Game 1 win. We move to game number 2. Some spice from the opponent. Shadow Pidgeot into Florges. Florges, of course, it's always a guessing game. Are they going for the Moonblast? Are they going for a Trailblaze? They're going to bank energy, save switch into Diggersby, and I am not baiting. Full setting the Brave Bird. That's devastating damage, and now I can bring my Diggersby into theirs. They are purified, so are they going to be running Return here? They are running Return. I saw so much spice today in the Remix Cup, and you're going to see as these battles go on. Opponents were running crazy teams, and I really, honestly, I respect this so much. In comes the Florges, but I don't think a Trailblaze will knock out here. It's super effective damage, but it does not get same type attack bonus, and because I survived that, I now get a Scorching Sands. But what I can't do is give up a farm down, so I switch into the Pidgeot. Opponent accidentally mistimes their attack, and I do get an entire Gust for free. I shield up the Moonblast. It's going to be the Claydol in the back once again, and I'm full sending the Brave Bird here. Brave Bird into the Claydol is massive damage. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We move to game number 3. Leading Shadow Pidgeot into a Venomoth. Look at the spice. Opponent switches out into a Glalie. Oh my goodness, the spice overload from this third opponent. I'm going to fire off the Air Cutter. Glalie's going to no shield, and I will end up switching into the Claydol. Opponent is going to throw 2 and the move here. They go for the harder hitting Shadow Ball. Double Avalanche was probably the way, but I don't think they were getting to 3 moves anyway. Glalie is going to be now firing off the Avalanche, but they will get farmed down before they make their next move. They're not going to be sending back in the Venomoth, as Venomoth would get rocked by Rock Tomb. Instead, they're bringing in the Shadow Quagsire, and Quagsire will respect the Ice Beam. Quagsire continues to farm, but they don't throw their attack, and now I get another Ice Beam. This is neutral damage. Opponent lets it go. Quagsire is so low. There's the switch into the Venomoth, and let's send in Shadow Pidgeot, and look at the Gusts go. I'm going to no-shield. Venomoth will go for the Poison Fang. Pidgeot, very low. I don't want to risk getting farmed down, so I'm going to fire off the Air Cutter. Air Cutter, shielded by the Venomoth. There's the boost. It's a 30% chance at a boost. Quagsire, they just have no HP remaining. They have so much energy, but it's not going to win them the game, so they will resign the match. We are staring down a Shadow Pidgeot mirror in the next match. I do have a little bit of attack on this Shadow Pidgeot, and that proves to be a valuable thing as I win the CMP tie. So Air Cutter is going to be no-shielded. We get the boost once again, and now I'm just going to look to fully farm them down. Opponent is going to pivot into Diggersby, and I'm very happy to chip the Diggersby with a boosted Air Cutter. Air Cutter, not the most powerful attack ever, but it does add up quite a bit. I actually got a second boost, but I decided to switch out anyway because I wanted to preserve Pidgeot, since Pidgeot is good fast move pressure into my opponent later in the game. My Diggersby usually loses CMP, so I don't play to CMP there. But when they Scorching Sands debuff here, this now gets uncomfortable. I will now need a Scorching Sands plus a Fire Punch, whereas before I could have double Fire Punched, so I will go for the Fire Punch here. They catch onto the Pidgeot, and I will go for an Undercharge, because I would love to get some of this energy back. I have to take a Gust, but I get 3 quick attacks back in exchange for not losing much health whatsoever. I'm guessing we're going to see the third here, and it's going to be Tinkaton. In comes Claydol. Opponent is going to resign the match, and we move to 4-0 in the set. Looking for the 5-0 set here, but it's a nightmare lead. Leading into Sandslash, I save switch into Diggersby. Opponent pivots out into an Ariados. Oh my goodness, this is not a response to an up energy Diggersby. They're going to commit an early shield, but Diggersby is very fine here up energy. Ariados has to be even energy if it wants a chance to compete. If it's down energy, it's just always getting outpaced because these Pokemon have identical pacing. So I'm always just going to get to the move first. My opponent has already debuffed me, already used the shield. They're going for another lunge, so now I'm 2 stages debuffed, and I will be firing off another Fire Punch. Fire Punch at this Ariados. Ariados is going to no shield, and now I have a choice to make. Do I decide to make a play for switch? I say no, which is a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm so weak to Sandslash that I think that playing for switch and giving Sandslash a bunch of farm would actually be a really bad thing. Instead, I'm just going to play to Claydol 2 shield, and that is actually going to win me this game, as in the back is Grumpig. And the nice thing about being up energy as Claydol is I can apply an early debuff to my opponent. This means I'm going to shield up 1 Shadow Ball, but I will be no shielding the second Shadow Ball and just looking to exit with residual energy, because that way I'll still have a shield remaining for a move from Sandslash. Shadow Ball, even at -1, leaves its mark, but I will get to overfarm, and now I'm only 2 Mudslaps away from a Rock Tomb into this Alolan Sandslash. So my opponent gets to send out the Sandslash. Sandslash will immediately be debuffed, and this will inflict some nice damage and basically put it in a range where I should be able to take the win with Pidgeot. They're at -1, so I'm gonna no shield. It's still super effective damage, but Shadow Pidgeot is going to secure the win, and that's gonna be a 5-0 set in the 3100s. We were at 3102 ELO, and I believe after claiming it, it took me to 3157, which is top 75 in the world at the time of recording. We move to the next match, and it's an amazing lead. Shadow Pidgeot into Pangoro. Opponent save switches into Grumpig, and here I make a pretty massive error. I believe this was the set before the 5-0, where it was my first set with the team, and I didn't realize that into a Grumpig save switch, I should just respond with Claydol. Claydol is very fine there. Obviously, Shadow Ball does quite a lot of damage, but here I try for a farm down, I fail the farm down, and I'm forced to go down 2 shields, which is not a good spot to be in whatsoever. So the way better way to play this is just to send in the Claydol into the Grumpig save switch. Whereas, as it turns out, my opponent ends up being ABA weak to Pidgeot, but I actually don't get to punish it because they were able to get such an advantage out of this mid game because Grumpig is just an absolute force to be reckoned with. So now I'm able to apply a debuff onto their Dusknoir with Claydol. I think that at -1 here, I can actually survive this, and I can. The -1 attack means Claydol barely hangs on. I get another Rock Tomb. They're gonna no shield, saving the shield for the Panda. Pangoro gets the farm down, and I send in Diggersby. And Diggersby, I'm gonna CMP tie here. If they close combat, it will not KO, and I have a guaranteed win, but they make a really smart play. They Night Slash, and now this Fire Punch is something they can very comfortably survive. And they're going to get to farm up to a close combat plus a Night Slash, and that's going to win them this game. I included this battle as a really good example of how a team that you should always beat can turn into a loss if misplayed. This was one of my first battles with the team. I wasn't as comfortable with the team as I should have been, and it cost me a win as a result. We see a terrible lead in the next match, leading into Magcargo. I throw a Gust, safe switch into Diggersby, and my opponent is going to stay in here with the Magcargo. I am going to be no shielding. There is the overheat crashing into the Diggersby, but when they send out Appleton, I think I can actually make a play for switch advantage here. Fire Punch is going to do basically nothing, but what's working super well for me is the fact that these Astonishes are double resisted. So even though I took so much damage, unless they can land a Seed Bomb, they are never going to be able to win switch. So I'm going to get to fire off this Fire Punch. Opponent will commit the shield, and Seed Bomb is 45, which means they should be 1 off their next Seed Bomb, and I am going to double shield because I know if I do, I can guarantee switch advantage. I just outpace Appleton. Appleton, there's really not a lot that they can do here. I farm up to where if they bring in Macargo, I can survive the Incinerate, and I should be 4 off of a Scorching Sands, so they're actually forced to bring in their final Pokemon, which is Amoonguss, and unfortunately for my opponent, they're running a really spicy team, but they just had 0 Pokemon that beat Diggersby, so I was at a pretty significant team comp advantage, even though I did have a really tough lead. Because winning Switch just completely wins me this game. In comes Macargo, and I just get way too much value with the Claydol, and my opponent is going to resign the match. We move to the next game, Shadow Pidgeot into Toxapex. Bit of a tricky lead here. I decide that I'm going to stay in, bank a Brave Bird, and then pivot out. So I'm going to send in Claydol. Opponent responds with Bombardier. Oh my goodness, and I am immediately regretting not save switching Diggersby. It appears they just don't have a great Diggersby response on this team because so far they're very ABA weak to it. As Bombardier isn't the most comfortable into Diggersby since it's very frail. They are going to go for the fly. I'm going to bring back in the Pidgeot. I know this is not Air Cutter range, so I have a choice. I can either shield once, overfarm a lot, and then pick up the KO with the Air Cutter, or go for the Brave Bird. I decide to Brave Bird, so I waste a bunch of energy in exchange for a shield advantage. In the back is Galarian Moltres, and this is a losing endgame for me. Had I played to shielding once, knocking them out with an Air Cutter, and then exiting with energy on the Pidgeot, I think I would be in a better spot. But unfortunately, with all the energy they have stored on this Toxapex, I think I'm actually losing here. Toxapex is going to land the Brine, and I really need a Scorching Sands debuff. If I don't get a Scorching Sands debuff, I don't think I can win this game. Scorching Sands, no debuff. Scorching Sands debuffs are the bane of my existence when they happen to me, but the one time I need it, unfortunately, I cannot get it. Here, I try for the Scorching Sands, but I can't get there, and that's going to cost me the game. I have a Fire Punch banked, but Moltres is not in Fire Punch range, so Brine is going to be shielded. In comes the Moltres, and even if I get an Air Cutter boost, Fire Punch does less than a quarter. I do get the boost, but they're still in the yellow, which means, yeah, I'm just going to let them knock me out there, as I can't win that game. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Shadow Pidgeot into Pangoro. There's the Grumpig save switch, and this is the new play pattern. I lost the last time I led into a Pangoro. I'm not losing again. I'm going to Air Cutter and then send in the Claydol. Because Claydol, I can survive a Shadow Ball. So when they land the Shadow Ball, that's very okay. Now I can fire off the Rock Tomb, and I will always be able to maintain alignment. So Rock Tomb is going to pick up the knockout. My opponent is going to bring back in the Pangoro, but they can never farm down. Pangoro is going to overfarm just a little bit before firing off the Night Slash. I'm going to be waiting down my timer since I did desync the timers, and then it's Shadow Pidgeot time. In the back, that's not a Corsola, that's a Dusclops, and I'll bank an Air Cutter for later and send in Diggersby. Whereas Corsola would be helpless in this matchup, Dusclops does have Ice Punch, so it does have more coverage. Galarian Corsola is a lot stronger of a Pokemon overall in this meta, but in this situation, obviously my opponent would greatly prefer to have the Dusclops. Dusclops is going to continue spamming out these Ice Punches. It looks like I can even survive a third Ice Punch, which should put me into such an incredibly good position. So I will fire off this Scorching Sands. Opponent is going to end up shielding. I'm going to be no shielding, and the moment they switch, I can switch back into the Pidgeot and click Air Cutter. They're farming up here. There's the switch. I bank the Fire Punch, and it's back in with the Pidgeot. Pidgeot going for the Air Cutter. They're going to shield. Pidgeot gets the boost, and look at the Gus go. Shadow Pidgeot. Oh my goodness. It deletes Pangoro in 2 gusts. That Pangoro was so healthy, and it just got erased. Air Cutter KOs the Dusclops, and Shadow Pidgeot slams the door. Hopping into the final match, Shadow Pidgeot into a Fire Spin Shadow Charizard. Now that is not something that I have seen before in this meta. I'm not quite sure, or at least I wasn't quite sure at the time, what Fire Spin's energy generation was, so I thought I could farm down, and it turns out I cannot. So I immediately have to burn 2 shields, which is quite scary. In comes Primeape, and that's not good. Primeape up 2 shields is very scary. I Air Cutter, they no shield, I switch into the Claydol. They're able to bank a Rage Fist for later, and their final Pokemon is revealed to be Pangoro. That is not what I was hoping to see. They're double fighter in the back. I build up to the Ice Beam, but I will just be going straight Rock Tomb in this matchup. I need to apply debuffs, so that way my opponent does not get the knockout with this next Night Slash. They have so much stored energy. Pangoro Night Slash will not knock out. Claydol hangs on and makes another Rock Tomb. So they are very heavily debuffed here, which is good news for me. I switch into the Diggersby. They pivot into the Primeape. Primeape only had a Rage Fist. They do not get the close combat. They've reset the Rock Tomb debuffs, but a close combat doesn't KO from full. So Diggersby is able to take the win. All in all, I had a ton of fun getting to run this team. I think learning the damage ranges of Shadow Pidgeot helped quite a bit. The first set with the team, I believe I went 2-3, and I definitely felt like the first Pangoro game, that there were some very winnable games that I wasn't able to convert on. But in set number 2, being able to lock in the 5-0, this team did feel really good. A lot of teams felt unprepared for Shadow Pidgeot, and I really like the straight 3 pacing. Obviously, Air Cutter is not an amazing move in terms of damage per energy, but the massive advantage it has over Aerial Ace is being 35 energy. With Gust generating 12 energy, you're always going to be 3 gusts off of a move, whereas even for Aerial Ace, it's 4 to the first, and 16 turns to your first charge move is just unforgivably slow for a Pokemon that doesn't have a lot of bulk. So I think Shadow Pidgeot, double Legacy with obviously Legacy Gust, and now the Legacy Air Cutter, it's a really solid pick. The 30% chance at a boost feels really nice because boosted Shadow Gust, we saw, they are criminal. They apply so much fast move pressure, and Shadow Pidgeot, not only did it feel like a good Pokemon for climbing, and a really good Pokemon for breaking up a lot of those Pangoro plus Ghost cores, but on top of that, it was just a really fun Pokemon to play. Additionally, I think Diggersby is just an unbelievably safe switch in this format, because obviously in the Great League Remix Cup, Annihilate is banned, and that's always the big worry, is if you end up safe switching Diggersby and you get hit with a Shadow Annihilate, you're gonna have a truly terrible day. But against these glassier fighters like Pangoro and Primeape, close combat does not one-shot. Karate Chop doesn't output a lot of damage. So weirdly enough, Diggersby, a Pokemon that I wouldn't normally consider a safe swap, actually feels very safe in this meta. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.